Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Service Delivery Committee meeting for the 21st of November. Great to see you all here. Thank you. And I'd like to invite Dale Marie if she would open with a karakia, please.
Morena tātou, manawa mai te Māori nuku, manawa mai te Māori rangi, ko te Māori kai au, he Māori tipua, ka pakaru mai te pō, tau mai te Māori haumie, huie, tākie. Embrace the life force of the earth, the life force of the sky, the life force I've gathered is powerful and shatters all darkness. Come great life force, join it, gather it, it is done.
Thank you. Do we have any apologies? Bruce Thomas and also Hineranga Kara. Yeah, both personal reasons.
Cool. Happy to move.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Phil. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Any disclosure of members' interests? There are none. Thank you. Any late items? Cool. No late items. Could we confirm the order of the meeting, please? Can I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Marcus. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Confirmation of the open minutes, which were held on 17th of October. They've been pre-circulated and so no issues. All right, so Lou's going to move and a seconder, please, that they're a true and correct record. Thank you, Dale. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. And now we move to the transportation activity report, and Brian Hudson's all ready for us. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Take it away.
I'll take the report as read and just highlight a couple of matters and then take questions. So just in terms of pavement rehabilitation, our contractors have also finished short lengths of pavement rehab on Herman Road, Ryburn Road and Patarangi Road, and are currently working on Te Mawhai Road. But a slight change to the program, they may actually be able to start Arapuni Road before Christmas.
Yeah.
Was that Hogan Road, did you mention?
Sorry, no, Hogan Road's still after Christmas. Arapuni Road may start before Christmas.
With regards to Hogan Road, yeah, because that was May, wasn't it? I think I remember in the agenda. Was it May next year?
This is March.
March next year.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's during term time, and twice a day with traffic going backwards and forwards, particularly in the weekdays, it's horrendously busy with parents dropping kids off and picking them up. Is it possible to re-look at that time frame during the holiday time or something like that?
It certainly is. We'll take that up with our contractor and see if
which would be April or something like that is holiday, Mike? April school holidays, something like that.
Sure, they happen that often, Phil. I've lost. I just don't remember.
13th of April. Yeah.
There is a risk pushing it too far into autumn, in that we've got to get it dry enough to seal. So, but I'll certainly suggest it to them and see if they can help us out.
And how long would the project take? How long will you?
It probably is only 2 weeks' work on Hogan Road, so it will be done pretty quickly.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Excellent. If you can look at that, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dale Marie?
Morena, Brian, tēnā koe. I just have a little bit of feedback, and I'm just wondering, when we are out there going to commence work, and we know that they've been scheduling, is there a tikanga, is there something where we just have a look at any of our marae around that area? And I'll just give you the feedback that I received 3 times last week from the one area, and that was around Mangatoatua Marae when Te Mawhai was, the road was shut down. The chair of that marae asked if there could be better comms just around that area. He felt that there wasn't enough time to let the full-blown nursery know of the impact that it would have on them, and because they have a social service group, so people couldn't actually get to the doctor. He couldn't mitigate that risk so much with their marketing comms channels. So yeah, if we could just add a little bit to the template that goes out of notification, that if it's marae, can we make sure we've got a little bit more of a lead in to let them know? Derek Roberts was very vocal, and then it came to the hui that I hosted last week at Thursday as well. So tēnā koe.
Yep. No, certainly we can do that. Thank you.
Yeah, those are really great, helpful comments. Thank you. Any other points? Oh, yes, Liz.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were going to do your report and then we we're going to do questions, but if we're going to go questions as we go along, that's absolutely fine. Hey, I guess just with LTPs, at the moment, really, very relative. I'm just interested in the construction, our road maintenance. Have we, and I'm looking at this list that's in front of me, do you feel that we have enough money to complete and meet our community's aspirations around the wide variety of potholes that we've got across our district? So have we got enough money in this year's annual plan to fulfil our community's aspirations? And next year, like, where are we at with that, the financial side of things?
Very good. So we did obviously apply to Waka Kotahi to get a bit more maintenance funding for the bridge, for some pavement repairs, and the Cambridge Connections business case. So in this financial year, we applied for and got some more funding from Waka Kotahi towards those activities. I believe we are making really good progress in catching up on the potholes and pavement repairs. So we've already done probably close to $500,000 worth of pavement repairs so far under the new contract with Downer. So we are catching up, and we have that 88 kilometres of resealing to do this year, which again will target a lot of those roads that have had pothole problems. So I feel that we will make really good progress in catching up. Then into the following financial years, while we've got our draft LTP budgets that we're working on, and that includes, we've included in there additional money for maintenance and resealing to make sure we get on top of those pavement problems. But obviously, we don't know yet from Waka Kotahi what level of funding that they will give us for the next financial year. So they're just getting to that stage where they're starting to have discussions with councils about the funding application that they've put forward, the draft funding application. So I've just, I think yesterday or Friday, had an email invitation from Waka Kotahi to attend a meeting to talk that through with them. So we haven't got, a clear signal or steer from them yet about how much they'll fund in the next 3 years.
Thank you.
And I have, I'm one of those people that makes a cup of tea before I get in the car every morning. And at the moment, it's very hard for me to keep all my liquid in my cup when I'm heading right through Cambridge Street. So I guess in meeting communities' aspirations around the pavement or the roads at the moment, I just really want to make sure that if we need to add extra funding in there to meet those aspirations, let's start talking about that now, because some of the roads, Shakespeare Street, they're pretty bad, eh? So if I don't see them on this list, I start to get a bit concerned that, hey, we might not be addressing them. So I just really want to highlight that as a bit of a red flag for me right now.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you. Mike, and then Roger.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Two things. Yeah, one's on that road maintenance contract. And I just mentioned to the Cambridge councillors a little while back about driving down Duke Street, and just, it's in pretty woeful condition really, and it's off the back of a whole bunch of water work that was done several years ago, and it was patched up, which is fine, but we've got the Bahura delegation arriving today, and they'll feel right at home driving down Duke Street, because it's very similar to what their roads are like over there, but they have, meters of snow. So I just don't see Duke Street in here, but you drive down it, it's sort of the central part of Cambridge, and it is in a poor state, particularly the challenge gas station end of Duke Street, that from the roundabout down. So is it on the radar somewhere? I'm sure it is, but
Mike, through you, Madam Chair, there's a number of pieces of road like that, Victoria Street near the bridge, Duke Street, Shakespeare Street. The bottom end of Alexander Street here in Te Miru is pretty rough. So there's, you know, through wet winters and COVID, not being able to achieve all of the work that we would like to have. We have got a backlog of, you know, rehab and pavement repairs and resealing work that needs doing. We've certainly, in the draft budget, put forward enough funding, and we've asked for enough funding from Waka Kotahi, but we'll have to see whether we're successful in getting all of that. Certainly some of these sites that you've mentioned will be addressed over the summer and improved on, but there'll be some that we won't be able to do this financial year and have to wait till next financial year.
Right, thanks for that. Hey, my second question really, I don't know how specific you can get under 3.2, the closed circuit television and the cameras, Kiki, Leamington and Tiro roads. What numbers do we have going into each of those areas?
Right, in Kiki, we've got two cameras, I believe. So one's an automatic number plate recognition camera and a sort of a fixed camera, or one that can be moved and zoomed around. Very much the same in Leamington, automatic number plate recognition and a wider lens. And then Tirau Road is looking, you know, from the Shakespeare Street roundabout, looking back towards the golf course, and will be a automatic number plate recognition camera only.
Right, thanks for that. And maybe just moving forward through maybe Brad's reports in future, just that Pukemakua Reserve, from memory, we had some issues around there, around boy races and antisocial behaviour. So I can see the police appreciate these cameras going in, but it would just be good to get just a bit of an impact of that camera over time, just to hopefully see that sort of behaviour has been reduced because of this camera. Thank you.
Roger?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Brian. My question was actually on the urban mobility programme. Do you want to take it now, or do you want to?
Yes, sure.
No,
Yeah,
take it now.
we're making our way steadily through the report, so it's all good.
And it's a question that's generated from my reading of the agenda for Friday and the future-proof transportation meeting. And they're talking about the SURF funding and whether or not there is certainty of that. And in fact, there's a comment in there regarding our SURF funding that there's a question mark about it. Can you add any more to that?
What I know to date is that Waipa has signed up the full funding agreement, which has released the funding for us for all of our construction for Kiki and Cambridge. There is some SURF funding was allocated to a regional project, which was all about vehicle VKT reduction,
yeah.
And future passenger transport planning. And so that funding, because no works have been committed with that funding yet, that funding was put on hold. So that was for planning projects for passenger transport and VKT reduction, for works that the regional council was spearheading.
I think you mentioned the very valid point there that in fact we've got signed work contracts for that. So I'm pleased that you've confirmed that, so we can have confidence that that money is still on track. And that's just basically what I wanted. That's great. Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Lou?
I'm a little bit further down the road. Thank you very much for your report, Brian. Well done. Just with anaerobic digestion, okay, we're talking at the moment in 2007 of compulsory food collection or waste food collection. Are we going to consider that as part of our solution to, you know, recycle our, or consider what we can do with that food?
The food waste, yep. So we've jumped down into the waste minimisation part of the report, where the supermarkets have been, you know, availing themselves of this program to responsibly dispose of food waste. So certainly when we come to that whole procurement phase of a collection contract, at that stage we'll be looking at what suppliers can do. because obviously there's different options within the region and outside the region. So there's the anaerobic digestion, which is down towards Rotorua, and composting, which is being done at Hampton Downs. So there's a range of options there, and it'll be around what works best for Waipa at the time. So just the other highlights in the report, obviously the Victoria Bridge, which probably everybody's well aware of, the painting is finished and they're disassembling the scaffold, and just a really neat project really in terms of how well it's gone. And at the beginning where we thought we'd have to close the bridge to traffic on a regular basis to be able to do the works, we haven't had to do that. It has extended the time of the work, but it has been very successful.
Just on that, I think Mayor Susan would like to say something.
Through you, Madam Chair. Can I just take the opportunity to say congratulations to the team? I mean, I think I speak for everybody, particularly maybe the Cambridge councillors, in that we were all a little bit concerned about the impact that potential closures, frequent potential closures, may have had on the township and traffic, and it's been managed and has been managed brilliantly. So I'm delighted that you were able to take on the concerns that we'd expressed to you, and that the contractor was able to work with our team to make sure that the impact was minimised, which is really important. So just big thumbs up to you all. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I think it's certainly one we can celebrate. All right. Just skipping over the road safety report, unless there's any questions there. Certainly there's been a lot of activity in that area over the last 3 months, with a lot of programs, training sessions and education programs delivered. In the waste minimisation activities, I just note there that standardisation of recycling has been gazetted. So we're obviously preparing for that with communications to just further train our residents in terms of what can and can't be put into the recycling bins. Again, a lot of activity in the waste minimisation, with a lot of community events and training and ways that the community can get involved in waste minimisation activities.
Just a moment, Brian, I've got a question from Dale.
Sorry, Brian, just one thing. Is it Shelley that's rolling out the engagement with Ngāiwi Tōpū o Waipa?
It will be, yes.
It will be. Oh yeah, I'll get in contact with her. It's just we're dealing with the iwi strategy engagement stuff. So I'm just sort of looking at not my own little audit, but making sure I'm touching base with those that are currently engaging out there, so we know how and what we're doing in that space. So,
yeah, very good.
Tina.
Thanks, Dale.
In terms of the level of service performance measures, then we're still behind where we'd like to be in terms of collecting recycled materials because of the contamination. And there is a further paper coming to council next month about that contract and its performance. But you can see there from the recycling activities that 94% of our residents are recycling very well or adequately, with only minor mistakes. But there is a portion of the community that have had to receive warnings, the bins not collected, and some have had their collection suspended. Interestingly, there's not a lot of pushback from people who have been suspended for that 3-month period, because they understand that they have been misusing the system, and so it doesn't come as a surprise to them. In terms of service requests, the numbers have been dropping because of the improved weather and us being able to get on top of the road maintenance. And there is that good news also about our bus usage, and that it continues to go from strength to strength. So we are on track at the moment to exceed last year's patronage, which was a record year. And of course, our new new contract starts in January next year. So if there's any further questions, I can take those now.
Thank you, Brian. I've got Roger and then Andrew.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Again, thanks, Brian. Public transport. I sent you a wee note couple of days ago when I read this about the definition of the data that I think we'd requested before regarding, you know, what we'd like to see in terms of public transport. Did you get back to me? I don't think you did, but it would be really interesting if we could have that definition, because the data that we'd requested was to get the average occupancy on the timed departures so we could see the spread, and obviously those services that were of low demand. But also more relevant was the short trips, the Leamington, Cambridge, Cambridge, Leamington, so we can see how much of the local transport is using that into town transport. Is it possible that you can get that out to us?
Yes, certainly. So I was trying to keep it simple in this report because it summarises a lot of stuff, but that more detail we were going to provide at the passenger transport sort of workshops that we do, where we can dig deeper into the information and provide more. Yep. Yes.
Thanks, Brian. And Andrew.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, this is a safety issue, I guess. In light of the tragic fatality on our main street a few weeks ago, is there any prospect of, I don't know, talking to Waka Kotahi about putting a roundabout at the end of Mutu Street, intersection with State Highway 3, in an effort to get more trucks off you know, the highly pedestrianised part of our main street?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Sort of improvement to Te Awamutu strategic roads is one of those business cases that we have identified in the draft long-term plan, and we have already, you know, made a funding application to Waka Kotahi for that sort of work, to develop a business case, to look at changes to state highway intersections and local road intersections that would facilitate, you know, providing that alternate path around the main street for traffic. So we've done that initial work. It obviously does depend on funding in the long-term plan and funding that Waka Kotahi can make available. But it is, I guess, in our sights. But because any project on the state highway will always take a number of years to develop and deliver, staff have sort of started to put their mind to other potential solutions for our main street, interim, you know, improvements that could assist. One of the issues arising is that we have zebra crossings in 3 of the blocks in town, but not that middle block outside the Peach and Porker, that area. And so there are people who are tempted to take a path across there to that narrow central median where there's no, you know, safe waiting space or anything, instead of walking, you know, in either direction to get to a safe crossing point. So maybe a shorter term measure might be to put another zebra crossing in that central block. So there might be, you know, elements like that that could assist. I also know just the other day we have received a petition has come in from a number of people calling for action around safety in the main street. So that will come to probably the Service Delivery Committee meeting shortly. But it is, yeah, so there is public concern about what we are doing. So yeah, being able to talk about those plans or make plans, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, thanks for that, Brian. Interestingly, I noticed when I followed tankers coming from the north, they used Mutu rather than Racecourse Road. Not entirely sure why, but the tanker drivers, I mean, it's consistent, and they'll have a reason that it's, you know, so it is a route that's already used. But if you're coming from Cambridge, for example, I'm honestly not sure what the tanker drivers use in that instance. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
through you, Madam Chair, Fonterra are, what I'd call one of the, most responsible corporate citizens when it comes to their driver instructions and everything. And they are instructed to avoid travelling through the main street as much as possible. And certainly in those peak times, they are trying to use Mutu Street to go around the main street. But you're right, the intersection of the state highway makes it then difficult for them to do a right turn out if they're going to the south or the east.
Thank you, and I've got another question from Dale.
This is just a quick response. When I was doing leaflet drops there, the understanding of why they were diverting is because of the road cones outside the stables. Makes it difficult. It's narrower for the trucks to get through there's quite a few cones that are set out there out the front of the stables. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so no more questions? Thank you. I think, Brian, gosh, the way you've navigated through this report, I think Shane Van Gisbergen would be really envious of your manoeuvring ability. Thank you very much. I do hope that you'll be able to update us on those conversations that you're having with Waka Kotahi, given the questions that particularly Liz was asking about the budgets and things like that. So I presume we will be updated on that. Excellent. Yeah, thank you. So with that, I've got a resolution on page 14 that the Service Delivery Committee receives report of Brian. So Andrew's going to move and Phil's going to second. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And now our next item is the Community Services Activity Report. All right, we have Brad there. Welcome, Brad. And that's on page 29 of our agenda.
Nami Tata. This chair is quite low, but we'll roll with it.
I wonder how that happened.
I might be short, but this is taking it to a new level. So I will just speak to a few highlights of the activity report and then happy to take any questions after that. Just a couple of clarities from the report. You'll note there was mention of the sports field lease model review coming to the same meeting here today. We have pushed out to the December meeting just to enable us to get the fullness of that content right for you and information. And an appendix, the library's appendix, page 48 of the agenda, you may have picked up that we didn't finish a sentence there related to specific feedback from the library's annual survey. And it should have read that the charges for computers were removed from the 1st of July 2023. So that's fine as that. Lots has been happening in the last quarter. It's been growth has ramped up in our parks and gardens spaces. So the teams are busy beavers out there at the moment, keeping the woes under control. Some really good renewal of plantings in some of the gardens around the towns, you may have noticed. We also had really impressive stats the last quarter for our museum enriching learning curriculum. So term 3 is generally a pretty busy term anyway. I think it's probably the nicer term for schools to book activities that don't affect camps and school startups and school finish sort of thing. So it's always quite busy, but we also had quite a good success from a media release we had in August around our early learning childhood centres. And so we've had a lot of those groups come in as well. And potentially it could also be as a result of the Ministry of Education moving to, focus on more on the New Zealand curriculum and getting more schools engaged through that as well.
Thanks, Brad. I've got a question from Roger. Is this a good time? Does it relevant? Like,
Good time or not?
I don't know when you'd like.
I can save it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Brad. I'm really pleased to see the level of activity on museum and heritage. And I think it's really interesting to see what the development across all of the dimensions of heritage that's there. But I do have a question, and I know that Cambridge Museum is not part of council, but we do fund it, even if it's by grant. And I think it would be really good if we also had in the report a report on the activity for the Cambridge Museum, because they're actually doing a lot of the similar stuff. And actually, as we read it now, it would appear that there's no heritage of Cambridge. Well, of course, we know that that's not the case. So I'm sure that the museum would be willing to give a voluntary report if they knew the areas on which were being reported. Is it possible we could look at that?
I'll take it away for some consideration. In our agreement with the museum, there is no requirement for them to provide us any reporting data. So, but we can have the conversation with them and see what they can easily share with us, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, carry on, please.
And another aspect, we've got the Leamington Domain Master Plan work in progress at the moment. From the community feedback, there was a couple of pockets that we really wanted to get a bit more detail on, especially around the model trains and also the Wharepaku toilet location as well. So we were planning to come back in December with a finalised plan, but we're just going to take the time to make sure we get that right and come back in February.
So just on that, Brad, yeah, I saw that sort of extension of the time frame. So I just wanted to be checking that even though you're going to give them more time, that it's still going to allow enough time to get any project into the LTP if something is highlighted, yeah, from that community consultation.
Yeah, definitely. So the consultation is more for staff. So we've gone out and met again with the model train people and also I understand the neighbours, and Dr. Bonnie, yeah, the neighbours of, you know, Amelia around the area. And so now we're just making sure we get that content right. We should still have that already. The biggest or the most important, no, I won't say the most important, but the key thing that we're progressing with at the moment was to make sure we get the location right for the playground renewal, because that's in desperate need of an upgrade. And so we already have that budget in the LTP as a business case already. So
Okay, good, thanks. Oh, yes, Mike.
This came to light, I believe, in the Cambridge Community Board public forum, these couple of issues. And I thought it was really handled nicely, to Brad, to you and your team. You know, it was a community forum working like it should. And it demonstrated to me a really responsive council. And so I was really pleased to see that you'd taken a little bit of time to get this right, because it just didn't need to be a problem. And you knew that, everyone knew that. So yeah, I thought it was really well done.
Oh,
so good work.
Feedback. Thanks, Mike.
thanks, Mike. I'm happy to take any other questions.
Any other questions? I do have some questions. Oh, Lou, you go first, and then I've got.
It actually comes from an earlier conversation with you, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
It was just at Memorial Park. The maintenance committee have indicated that they are not aware of the actual plan for the new playground, actually the facility that's going in. And I just want to extend that to you, that they were, and also to say to your staff, very, very proud and pleased to have worked with them and what they're doing with the bridges. We're working on the panels, etc. And if we get acceptance from local iwi, I think we can move forward very positively with that. So I want to thank them very much for what they did last night. An excellent meeting.
Cool. Thanks, Councillor Brown, and through the chair. So specifically on the playground design component, we are progressing that and almost finalised it. So back in December last year, late December, we had a hui with members of the Te Amutu War Memorial Maintenance Group, the RSA, representation from the Community Board, Mana Whenua, and someone else? Can't remember. You know, we had quite a comprehensive list of partners and stakeholders at the hui, just to give us a bit of a steer and a bit of a framework on how we want to progress with that Memorial Park playground design. So we got some really good feedback from that, and it's given us a good steer. As I said, we're pretty close to finalising it, and we're touching base with our Mana Whenua partners just on a couple of elements, just to make sure we get those right. But then we'll be sharing that back out with the maintenance group, RSA and the community boards once it's finalised. There's no more, we're not getting any more feedback. I think you can get 10 different people, give you 10 different responses for a playground design. So, you know, we've captured that early feedback at the start and progressing in that regard. We've also got other implementation of that concept plan progressing at the moment, which is the heritage maintenance management plan and the vegetation management plan. So again, we're working with the Te Awamutu War Memorial Park Maintenance Group to that we brought them in for a session where they were able to provide their feedback. So they provide feedback both at the meeting, and then they indicate they wanted to provide some further content to the project team. They've now done that, and the project team is working with our consultant just to finalise that up now. The vegetation management plan is slightly behind where the heritage management plan is, just because Mana Whenua, who we're working with, Ngāti Apakura, they've had a change in their chair just recently. So just in terms of transitioning from Bill to Oren, we're just working through that at the moment. So
Thanks for those updates. That's really great, Brad. Now, did you have another question, Mike?
It's a general question. Are we onto that yet, or do you
I
want to?
think so, yeah.
Okay, cool. The rural open space maintenance contract just sparked my attention. Could you just talk to that a little bit? What were the outcomes from your Section 17A review?
So we are looking to bring that in-house with funding from the long-term plan. We just at the moment putting out a short-term contract just to keep that going through until we can get resourced up ourselves, and then we'll take that on board. But yeah, the contract sort of allows it to be staged, so we don't have to hit the ground running all at once. So they can hand things over to us as we get ready to go.
Okay. I'd just like to slip in just one more question, Brad. I didn't give you a heads up about it, but you know the Living Waters project that's on page 10 of your report, or page 38 of our agenda, right at the bottom there. Yeah. So there's it says that that project's come to an end, but there's something going to be used to, I suppose, put in place to replace it. Have you got any idea what that might be? Because that's the Manga Otama catchment, which is pretty big, yeah. And I'd be sorry to see it just, yeah, you know, sort of come. I suppose I don't want to use the term die natural death or anything, but it'd be great if there was something that could be in place to make sure the work carries on.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I don't have anything of substance to be able to inform you today, but I know the team, especially with the Peat Lake Accord, you know, they're sort of looking around what it could look like as well. So yeah, I don't have anything tangible to offer right now, sorry.
All right, no, thanks very much. Okay, so no further questions. So I think then thank you, Brad. It's been great to get all your updates. And so now on page 29, I have that resolution to receive his report. So a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Lou, and a seconder. Thank you, Dale. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. And our next item is the Parks and Reserves dual naming update and reserve naming. Welcome, Bonnie. Kia ora. Over to you.
Kia ora. So yeah, we've got Bonnie here from, oh, she's looking very tall next to me now. This
has been deliberate, I think.
You're gonna have to. Oh, there you go.
Thanks, Bonnie. So again, we'll take the report as read. Just a couple of really brief highlights from it. Just noting that in the future we'll be coming to this committee with more regular updates in the future, similar to what the roading team or the engineering team do around road names. We also, just important to note that this signage suite is focused primarily on our identification and wayfinding signage. So this doesn't include our interpretive signage, which will be at a later date. We will be, our team currently in the process of forming up some guidelines and process of how we interpret some of those stories in our parks, which might be sharing some of these names in fuller detail as well. So But happy to take any questions unless you want to add anything, Bonnie.
Okay, so I've got a question from Mike and then Liz and then Roger.
In your report, you note that sometimes a special consultative procedure may apply. What would be the criteria for triggering that in the space?
So we've got a policy, what's it called? The significance and engagement policy. And so we had a look through that and we thought in terms of the criteria there, a lot of it has to do with, making sure that we are making sure that people are involved and making sure that mana whenua are involved appropriately. And we felt with the process we went through with Nitau, we felt we've really engaged really well with mana whenua, and we've got researchers on board. And so we don't feel it's appropriate to go out for public opinion on names that have been gifted by mana whenua. So, yeah.
Sorry, just to reiterate the question, when would the special consultative procedure be triggered? Because you're saying in here that sometimes it might need to be.
That would be if there were quite kind of significant changes that would really affect people, but because we're keeping the original names as well as the Te Rao names, we don't consider there's significant changes that would need to be consulted on.
It's pretty unlikely that we'll need to go down that route.
Is that right, Mike? Yeah. Okay, all right. Liz
Yeah,
and then Roger.
thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brad. I just,
Wait, I think it was Liz and then Roger.
oh, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
Roger. I was giving.
It's all good. Hey, look, I'm really happy with this report largely, and very happy with the suggestion of the first tranche of names. So very fitting. But what I wanted to see was a visual of the sign. Is that possible? Do you have an example so that we could have a look at it?
We do have a mock-up of the draft suite or the suite of signage. We can distribute that if you like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just really important. Is it new branding? Is it sort of, following on from where we were before? Because of my time, I've seen quite a few changes, and yeah, it'd just be really good to understand how that looks. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Roger and then Dale.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Liz. Thanks, Brad. Look, I'm just looking on page 4 of your report, and it's to do with the process regarding the name Wharamarama. And you say that this reserve was not endorsed by the Cambridge Community Board. Has it subsequently been endorsed by the Cambridge Community Board?
So under the previous naming process, it would have gone through, typically names would have gone through the community board, but this one wasn't. It was a later addition to that subdivision. And so that process was never completed. And so that's kind of why we are trying to kind of dot our I's and cross our T's.
So it's not been approved by the community board?
So the new process, the new naming process means that we don't need to go through that route like that. So they don't go, just like road names, they don't go through the community boards either. So there's no requirement to go to that.
That worries me a bit, that it's not going to the community board. I think even though the process doesn't say that it has to, I think the community board is our local governance body. And I think anything that affects a local community in this name, in fact, which is perceived as being quite important, that it should go through the community board. And I see that coming up, we've got the next tranche will be the list of Cambridge Reserve Māori names. And from what you're saying, they would not go to the community for consultation. And that really does worry me.
Thank you.
I can just answer that. Dawn's pointed out that there's a little paragraph on page 53 that says that there will be updates to the Cambridge Community Board. There was an update in their October meeting where they resolved to receive future names via the Friday mail out. So they are being, my concern is the questions you're raising, Roger, are relating to how the policy, I suppose the mechanisms work within the policy. And I think you're suggesting a change to that mechanism, and that's something that should be looked at when we review the whole policy. Yeah. I'm not saying it's wrong or anything, just that where's the right place to
I'm actually
look at it.
concerned in terms of our Cambridge reserves that there will be a Maori name associated with that without any communication with the community. And that's basically what was,
so I think Brad
was
can
said there.
So yeah, so when we went to the community board in October, we explained the background of the project to them and what we're doing here today as well. And they were quite comfortable to receive those names in advance just so they can be aware and talk to the community themselves about those names. For specific parks where there's a club or organisation domiciled on those parks, we would be working with, we'd be informing those before we even put signs up for us, for example. So, you know, with a sports club or something, we'd go and
Let
have
me
a
ask a
conversation with them.
specific question then with regard to the parks. One of our major parks, which is known as the Village Green in many respects, is Victoria Park, which was established in 1911. Is that to be included within the list of parks that you'll be giving an iwi name to, Maori name to?
That's correct. We've eventually be given a Maori name. I don't know in terms of what timing for that. It's not one of our initial first or second tranches, so it will just be a case of sort of when the signage needs renewing on the site. And in that example, then we'd work with you know, the Cambridge Market people and the club, the Cricket Club, to say this is the background to it, and this is what we're doing.
I know that you're saying you'll work with the market and the cricket club. I'm concerned that you're going to give one of the principal parks in Cambridge a Maori name without consultation with the community. And that really does worry me.
So perhaps we could just have a bit more clarity on that, what the proposed process would be for when we get to that point. Like, you made it clear that the focus initially is going to be on wayfinding and adding, there was something else.
Yeah, so adding names and adding bilingual text to it as well. So it's part of us being good Te Tiriti partners, right? In terms of being able to see and hear that language spoken more. In terms of, I just want to clarify, when we go and talk to the sports clubs or user groups of those parks, it'll be informing of what we're doing. We're not looking for consultation on that.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering if we might need a bit more information about that, Liz.
Yeah, no. Look, thank you. Look, I guess from my perspective, you know, as Cambridge grows and matures, I'm really looking forward to seeing this new dual signage, and very excited to see what name, appropriate name, comes from iwi that will reflect Victoria Square and the history, you know, of Cambridge, all of its history. So I welcome this. I think it's a great step forward as our town matures, and that all, you know, all of our residents, some will have an opinion, of course, but it just means that, I guess, for all residents, this is a great opportunity to see Cambridge mature. So that's my personal thought on this.
Now, I've got a question from Dale. Is that right, Dale? Yeah.
Tēnā tātou. Just in response to, firstly, thank you, Brad. Thank you both for the work that's been put into this. And yes, I think we do probably need to have a look at the policy later on. I'd just like to respond to a couple of comments from my peer here, Councillor Gordon. Has there been an audit of the European names that we have in this district and where they come from? How many European names do we have as street names, and where do they derive from? Just so that I can understand the significance that they have to the area and the lands of this area. Secondly, Councillor Gordon, anyone would think that we were actually stripping the European names by replacing them with iwi names. What we're doing is we're complementing those European names with the original heritage names prior to those beautiful European names that have come to these shores. I say that as a proud English, Welsh and Scottish woman. I note that that park, Victoria Park, was given that name in 1911. And I think when we consider those times of when those reserves were given those names, there would have been absolutely no consideration to Māori at that time, because there was no consideration to Māori about what was happening to their lands too at that time. So I think this is great leadership for us today, that we take this. Yes, I do think we need to respond to the policy with the policy in mind when that comes. But tēnā kōrua, tēnā koutou I te tīma, I whakanui tā tātou reo mō tēnei whenua. Tēnā tātou.
Thank you, Dale. That's great.
May I just respond? I think there is, if you recall what I said, I was concerned about the community of Cambridge not being consulted. That's what I was commenting on, and I maintain that position. Thanks. And I also am aware of the naming of Cambridge because, as you probably know, I've done seminars on the first 10 years of Cambridge and the establishment of Cambridge. So I'm quite well aware of the origin of a lot of the names that we're talking about.
And look, thanks very much, both councillors, for those contributions. I think we'll hand those over to Brad to make sure that those comments, are reflected on and perhaps, incorporated into an update report, in the future as this project is progressed. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Chair. Look, I'm in agreement to this, but being from an organisation that operates at a park with over 3,500 members at the moment, I do think there has to be communication with them, just the relevance of it and what it means, because we have a large proportion of the community actually operating on that park, and they have to have some input as well, not just somebody who's isolated away from that. So it is a thing that we need to identify the park, certainly in its cultural background. In our case, it was developed as a camp. That was what it was originally. So it was done in the 1860s and levelled out at that stage. So I just feel that there does need to be communication with the actual occupiers of the park so that they do be made aware of it.
Will work for you, Brad, I think, but really good points. And the last comment for Mayor Susan.
Mine is not on that point. Thanks for your report. Just on page 56 of our agenda, which is the next actions, and I guess I'm coming at this not about a content or substance issue. I'm looking at cost, and I see there that the responsibility for the next actions rests with Grey Matter Limited, obviously a consultant. I guess I just need some certainty that there is some scrutiny being run over them bringing in consultants to undertake work. I guess I just want assurance from you that this is an absolute requirement, that you're tapped out. There's no way you could possibly do it in-house. I'm just mindful of our financial headwinds going forward, and I think we need to scrutinise, I guess, the implementation of any external resource into our organisation to take work that we could possibly be doing in-house. So I just need that assurance from you that this is actually 100% needed.
Yeah, so that aspect is sort of linking in the mana whenua researchers with our processes. So and having the right person be able to speak into that. So we the consultants are probably brought on at a time where we were short-staffed, but we'll definitely look at that just to make sure that that's still appropriate. Our project delivery team, they do projects for us on community service behalf, and sometimes they use their own internal staff of our capacity, or otherwise if there's a specialist skill set, they'll go out to those consultants. So I'll bring that up with the project delivery team to make sure that is still appropriate.
Yeah, I'm just conscious of our discussions we're going to be looking at or commencing over the next 6 months. And I guess we need to be particularly mindful, I guess, of that external resource. If we're not needing it, then let's buckle down and do it internally if we can.
Thank you, Susan. And with that, we're going to wrap up this item. And I've got a resolution on page 51 of our agenda that we received the report from Brad about the Parks and Reserves dual naming update, and we approve the name of Whare Marama Reserve. Are you going to move that, Dale? Thank you. And Liz is going to second. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. And thank you for all that discussion.
Kia ora,
Great
thank you.
points. Thank you. And now we're moving on to tab 9, which is the Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant Inlet Works, Equipment and Peripherals. Welcome, Martin. Good to see you here today, and yeah, looking forward to hearing your report. Thank you.
Good morning, through the chair and members. Yep, so this is a report from Robin, who's here to help me if I need it. So this is the first one of two around the Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant. So this is to increase the approved contract sum for the supply of the inlet works. As part of the early contract involvement phase, it was determined that it was more cost efficient and less riskier for the supplier to do that work rather than the main contractor. So therefore there's an increase to their contract sum required.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Mike.
Look, this part of it's quite straightforward, but kind of considering these two items sort of together. So it's a general question just about how this contract's going, the contract oversight, etc. Noting it is the biggest contract we've ever let. Yeah, if you just could you spend just a few minutes just on the contract oversight that's in place and how it's going, and you know what you're seeing there, anything we should be worrying about.
Yep, sure. So the contract hasn't started yet. So the inlet works first one that's currently being built and will be delivered from Australia. The actual main contract is the second paper. So we've been we have a project leadership team. So we've been which has guided us through the whole going through the consent process, obtaining the consent through the Kaitiaki group, and then on through the ECI phase. We've had a project leadership group to make sure we're getting the right outcomes from the ECI phase. And so we've worked in partnership with our designers, our contractors and iwi to come up with the right outcome. And physical works will start shortly, provided the next report gets accepted. And then that will be monitored as we normally manage contracts from our contract manager perspective. And we'll still have a project steering group over the top.
Yeah.
Next item, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I just think it's great to see that early contractor involvement, delivering some benefits for us already. Yeah, so I'm really encouraged by that. Yeah. So with that, I'd like a mover and a seconder for the resolutions. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to the chair, to ask one clarifying question. On page 62 at the very top there, it's got the staff recommended contract be set at 82,000, which allows for the 10% contingency.
That's the next paper.
Oh, that's
sorry, it is too. Sorry.
All right, so we'll go back to trying to get this resolution passed. So I've got Roger moving and Liz is seconding. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Excellent. And now the next item, which is the Cambridge Wastewater Treatment Plant main construction increase to approved contract sum.
Yes, so this one again, as we've gone through that early contractor phase, we'll be awarded originally a contract for a nominal sum of 77 million, I think, 77.5 million, which enabled the early contractor involvement to commence. And part of that contract was if they were successful in partnering with us and delivered a cost that was acceptable, then the contract would be awarded to them. So that's why we had to previously award the contract for that number. And so for all of that work through the ECI phase, we've come up with the final contract price from Spartan of $75,086,731 as the final sum, as the outcome of that ECI. And again, and then staff propose a 10% more or less contingency to be added to bring it to 82,600,000. Again, one of the real benefits of the ECI was whether reducing risk, and so we believe that we've probably saved 15 to 20% of cost if we went to the market by understanding those risks better and sharing them appropriately with either the contractor or us, retaining risk if that's the right appropriate thing to do.
Thank you. All right, Mike, question time.
Sorry, now I'm on the right. I did jump ahead. Hey, just on that same page and just under there. So what we planned for is 103 odd million dollars.
Yep.
So this is all loan funded, I'm assuming. So the difference of the 20 odd million, I'm assuming if all goes well, we don't need that from what we planned to what the contract is plus the contingency, or not?
In an ideal world, yes.
Right.
Generally, you have the contingency because things do happen. But yeah.
So I guess if it goes under 103 million, I guess my question is, or maybe it's to Andrew, I don't know, where does the additional money? We just don't borrow it; it goes back into something. It fixes Duke Street. I'm just joking.
So yeah, so it doesn't. If we don't spend that money, it's just not borrowed.
Right. Good. Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Roger?
Yes, I think Mike had his hand up. All right. Thanks a lot. So we've got two of the contracts in here, but there are other contracts also that relate to the wastewater treatment plant. And I know you've probably got the figures back in your office, but in total now, what is that contract worth, adding up all the individual contracts relating to the wastewater treatment plant?
Well, it's complicated. So in total, we're still on target to be on budget of the 103 million. So we've got this contract for 82,600,000 for Spartan, the Spirac one for was 4,863,000. We've got another $3.5 million contract from memory with Veolia to supply the membranes. I think in the table, page 3, it says the cost to date, including committed, that 12,847,000 wraps up all the other contracts, apart from this main one in that 12 million. So that's the total contract cost and money already spent on the design, etc.
Okay. 103 million.
Correct.
Right. Thank you. And now Mike?
Yeah, just to further my line of inquiry from before, now we're on the main contract.
Yes.
And I'm not particularly getting at anything here. I'm just wanting to have adequate level of, or be assured there's an adequate level of governance oversight of this massive project, okay? So I read it and we're at 103 million, we're right on our budget limit in the LTP, right?
Correct.
So, and is that, there's two questions here. Just remind me how much contingency is built into that is first question. And second, back to what I previously tried to ask is, what are your concerns? What are you worried about on this contract, given we're at the budget limit already? Okay, just so I've got a decent feel for this, okay?
Yes, for sure. Yep. So the contingency of 7,000, is it 7 million? I think just around that number. And so that's still some unshortage, even though we've gone through the detailed design and the ECI, there's still some areas where we've not 100% nailed yet. There's always unforeseen ground conditions that could pop up when you're building something. The site is very poor geotechnically, so there's quite a risk still in geotech outcomes. There's still final equipment to be purchased. There's still a risk of increasing costs of materials between, it's a 2.5-year build. So materials will increase over that time. So that's what the contingency is there to cover in reality. And also we've got quite a process in the contract of how we deal with material increase. And again, it's that sharing the risk is we've agreed that we will pay, if materials costs increase, we will pay that, rather than saying to the contractor, no, that's your risk, because then he'll have just added $2 or $3 or $4 million to the cost to cover that risk, because it would have been unknown, whereas in that contingency, we'll cover material price increases. So we know what they've priced it for today, and when they come to buy it, if there's a difference, we'll pay that difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I mean, we'll obviously be updated the whole way through this.
Yeah.
And so
Definitely.
look, just in summary, you're reasonably comfortable with your 103 mil with the built-in contingency at this stage, at the beginning of a 2.5-year build?
Yes, we're as comfortable as you could be at this stage, just starting that build, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Appreciate those questions, Mike. And appreciate your comments too, Martin. Yes, Marcus.
I know it's wastewater treatment plant, but I just had a thought. Is there any work being done on about the clam situation, like outlet pipes and things like that, like filters and locking and stuff, or not really a concern?
Not really concerned. Then we haven't got any pipes going into the river from the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, cool. Thank you. No more questions then, so we can move to the recommendation, which is on page 60. Oh, actually, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Yeah, it is 62. Yeah, that we receive a report that we approve the increase. Yeah, and delegate. Yeah. Thank you, Roger. And a seconder. Thank you, Phil. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you, Martin. Look forward to further updates
Cool,
as well.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, our next item is contract signed under delegated authority. Dawn's going to report to that. That's on page 67 of our report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's only one this month that has been approved under delegation, and that is part of the urban mobility program with respect to the structure that we constructed in adjacent to Duke Street within the transport corridor there to provide the additional capacity for our connected dedicated cycleway through there. So that's one that was awarded to Care Landscaping and Structures Limited. Thank you.
Thank you. So no question. I'm happy to move from the chair. Would someone like to second that? Thank you, Liz. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. That's carried. Thank you. Great to see that progressing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah. Now we've got the resolution to exclude the public. Thank you, Lou, and a seconder.